We Europeans may have different histories and different languages, but there is no European language in which peace is synonymous with surrender and sovereignty is synonymous with occupation.
I would like to say something which is common in English, but I can see it's not accepted here.
In this statement, the speaker reframes the entire European debate around Ukraine. He does not speak in military terms, but in moral and civilizational language. By declaring that peace can never mean surrender and sovereignty can never mean occupation, he challenges any narrative that presents compromise as stability. This is not an appeal for endless war, but a rejection of a peace that erases national dignity. His wording is carefully chosen to unite Europe across history, culture, and language, while drawing a firm red line against Russian aggression. The message is simple but powerful. Europe may argue about strategy, but it cannot rewrite the meaning of freedom. And in this moment, he is reminding the chamber that language itself becomes dangerous when it is used to justify submission.
And yet, there are still some who blame this war not on the invader, but the invaded, not on Putin's.
Now, all of these left-wing lies about Hungary, I think, is pure political propaganda. You're parliamentary members of parliament, and if you want to do that, then you can do so. But I was quite surprised at what I heard from the President of the Commission.
There are still some who blame this war not on Putin's lust for power, but on Ukraine's thirst for freedom. So I want to ask them, would they ever blame the Hungarians for the Soviet invasion in 1956?
I fully reject what you said, President of the Commission. Any comparison with what freedom fighters did in 1956 was a mistake, and it has nothing to do with what happened in 1956, what's going on in Ukraine now. It's a complete mistake to make a comparison between those two things. On behalf of... And I reject any comparison with the freedom fighters from 1956.
Would they ever blame the Czechs or Slovaks for the Soviet repression of 1968? Would they ever blame the Lithuanians for the Soviet crackdown of 1991? We Europeans may have different histories and different languages, but there is no European language in which peace is synonymous with surrender and sovereignty is synonymous with occupation.
I would like to say something which is common in English, but I can see it's not accepted here. The English press says if you want to win, you need to be courageous enough to recognize that you may lose, because we may facing loss on the Ukrainian front. But the reality is, thanks to the President of the Commission as well, the European Union has a mistaken policy when it comes to this war. If we want to win, then we need to change this losing strategy that we are currently implementing. It was a poorly planned and poorly implemented strategy. If we continue on that route, we're going to lose. If we don't want Ukraine to lose, then we need to change strategy. And I think that you should consider that.
The people of Ukraine are freedom fighters, just like the heroes that freed Central and Eastern Europe from Soviet rule. And there's only one path to achieve a just peace for Ukraine and for Europe. We must continue to empower Ukraine's resistance with political, financial and military support.
In every war, there needs to be diplomatic work, we need to have communication, direct and indirect contacts. If we don't do that, then we will go even deeper into war, and the situation will be even more desperate. More and more people will die. Hundreds of thousands of people have died. Thousands of people are dying while we're talking here now.
Last month in Kyiv, I announced that we will provide up to 35 billion euros in loans to Ukraine as part of the $50 billion pledged by the G7. This loan will be repaid by the windfall profits of immobilized Russian assets, and it will flow directly into Ukraine's national budget. So, we are making Russia pay for the damage it caused, and we will stand with Ukraine through this winter and for as long as it takes.
And with this strategy, we won't find any solution in the battlefield. So I think we need to stand up for peace. We need to focus on a ceasefire and create a different strategy, because otherwise we will all lose.
This speech unfolds as a direct confrontation with what the speaker sees as a moral confusion inside Europe. From the opening moments, he identifies a fundamental problem, that some voices in Europe no longer place responsibility for the war on the invader, but on the invaded. This reversal, he argues, is not only politically dishonest, but historically dangerous. By recalling the Soviet invasions of Hungary in 1956, Czechoslovakia in 1968, and Lithuania in 1991, he places Ukraine's situation into a clear European memory. His question is not rhetorical, it is accusatory. Would anyone ever blame those nations for being invaded? If not, why is Ukraine treated differently? The speaker then directly rejects comparisons made by the president of the European Commission regarding Hungary's 1956 freedom fighters. He calls such comparisons a mistake and separates historical resistance movements from modern political narratives. This moment reveals a deep tension inside European institutions, not over support for Ukraine, but over how history is being used to justify current policy. He then moves to one of the most important philosophical lines of the speech, that no European language allows peace to mean surrender, and no European language allows sovereignty to mean occupation. This is not simply a poetic phrase. It is a warning. It suggests that if Europe changes the meaning of these words, it also changes the foundation of its political identity. The speaker does not deny the reality of battlefield difficulties. Instead, he openly admits that Ukraine may be losing ground, but he shifts responsibility to European strategy, calling it poorly planned and poorly implemented. He argues that continuing the same approach while expecting different results is self-destructive. However, his criticism is not aimed at Ukraine. It is aimed at European leadership. At the same time, he strongly affirms that Ukrainians are freedom fighters, equal to those who once liberated Central and Eastern Europe from Soviet rule. This comparison restores dignity to Ukraine's struggle while also binding it emotionally to Europe's own liberation history. His strategy for the future is dual. On one hand, he demands continued political, financial, and military support for Ukraine. On the other, he insists that diplomacy must never stop. He rejects the idea that talking is weakness. Instead, he presents communication as a necessity to prevent deeper catastrophe. When he cites the financial support, the 35 billion euro loan funded through immobilized Russian assets, he introduces a crucial political message that Russia should pay for the destruction it caused. This is not only economic policy, but symbolic justice. Yet the speech does not end in confidence. It ends in warning. He says clearly that this strategy will not produce a solution on the battlefield. Without a change towards ceasefire and a different political direction, he believes everyone will lose. His closing words are not about victory, they are about survival. This speech is therefore not pro-war, not anti-Ukraine, and not anti-Europe. It is a speech about contradiction, about a Europe that supports Ukraine, yet doubts its own strategy, about leaders who speak of peace, yet disagree on what peace truly means, and about a continent still struggling to define the line between resistance and realism.